Jesus glowing, the Transfiguration, the Holy Face miracle. Join us as we look at some interesting comparisons and contrasts. Let's briefly read the account of Jesus being transfigured from Matthew 17. 6 days later, Jesus took Peter, James, and his brother John and led them up on a high mountain by themselves. He was transfigured before their eyes. His face became as dazzling as the sun, his clothes as radiant as light. Suddenly Moses and Elijah appeared to them, conversing with him. Then Peter said to Jesus, "Lord, how good that we are here. With your permission, I will erect 3 booths here, one for you, one for Moses, and one for Elijah." He was still speaking when suddenly a bright cloud overshadowed them. Out of the cloud came a voice which said, "This is my beloved Son, on whom my favor rests. Listen to him." When they heard this, the disciples fell forward on the ground, overcome with fear. Jesus came forward to them, and laying his hand on them, said, "Get up, do not be afraid." When they looked up, they did not see anyone but Jesus. As they were coming down the mountainside, Jesus commanded them, "Do not tell anyone of the vision until the Son of Man rises from the dead." So that's the account of the Transfiguration. But let's look at a different account of Jesus glowing, and that is from the miracle of the Holy Face. For a little background, let's talk about a different Peter, a more recent Peter, that of Pope Pius IX. And for background, I'm reading a little bit here from a guide to Italian anti-Catholicism in the late 1800s from the Fatima Center. It notes that in November 1848, Pope Pius IX, disguised as a simple parish priest, had to flee Rome as a group of revolutionaries had seized control of it. He was forced to flee the city as a simple parish priest and seek refuge in Gaeta, a coastal town south of Rome. He remained in exile there for more than a year, during which time he issued a number of condemnations of the revolutionary movements and reaffirmed the Catholic Church's commitment to its traditional teachings and authority. Some of the teachings he was trying to counter included things we know pretty well these days: rationalism, materialism, liberalism, pantheism, communism, and others. And from Gaeta comes this account of what happens with the miracle of the Holy Face, because the Pope instituted something where he wanted the veil of Veronica to be displayed. I'm going to go ahead and read you an account of this miracle of the Holy Face. It's written by Father Janvier. It's published in 1882. And this is Father Janvier. In the month of January 1849, during the exile of Pius IX at Gaeta, public prayers by order of the Holy Father were offered in all the churches of Rome to implore the mercy of the Omnipotent on the Pontifical States. On this occasion, they exposed in St. Peter's the wood of the true cross and the veil of St. Veronica. On the 3rd day of the exposition, the canons appointed to the charge of the precious relics noticed in the Holy Face the impression of which on the veil is so faint as to be scarcely visible, a remarkable change. Through another veil of silk which covers it and absolutely prevents the features from being distinguished, the divine face appeared distinctly, as if living, and illuminated by a soft light. The features assumed a death-like hue, and the eyes, deep sunken, wore an expression of great pain. The canons immediately notified the clergy of the basilica. The people were called in. Many wept. All were impressed with a reverential awe. An apostolic notary was summoned. A certificate was drawn up attesting the fact. A copy of it was sent to the Holy Father at Gaeta. For many days, this prodigy, which lasted 3 hours, was the sole topic of conversation at Rome. On the evening of the same day, some veils of white silk, on which is represented the Holy Face, were applied to the miraculous veil. These veils have been sent to France and subsequently around the world, and one of them is right here, an authenticated relic from the Vatican. The one I have here is signed from Pope Leo XIII, 1902. Let's look at some interesting comparisons and contrasts in discussing this. The first one is brightness. If we look at what happened with the Transfiguration, the term dazzling, his face was dazzling. He was announcing his divinity. If you look, however, with the Holy Face miracle, it was noted to be a soft light. His face was not dazzling. It was a soft light. It was dampened, dimmed by the sin which we have committed. Sins against the first 3 commandments. And it's interesting that the Pope at that time wanted the veneration to be for 3 days, similar to the Triduum of the Passion, and that our Lord chose to be illuminated through the Holy Face for 3 hours, which is the time that he was on the cross. So brightness, dazzling, and dimmed. The next point, it's interesting. Tell everyone. This is what our Lord, during the Transfiguration, commanded to the apostles, to the 3 apostles, that they had to keep quiet until after he rose from the dead. Then they could tell everyone. And look what has happened since that time. Look at how the message has spread literally throughout the whole world. Here we are 2,000 years later. Catholic Church is noted to be the longest continuously functioning international institution in history. Tell everyone. The same thing happened with the Holy Face. Our Lord wanted this to get exposure and to be told, first throughout France and then throughout the whole world. He gave messages to St. Mary of St. Peter in this regard, how he wanted this to be known so much. And eventually, it did initially become known quite well. It reached Pope Leo XIII, who raised the Archconfraternity status in 1885, and Saint Therese of Lisieux was one of the founding members of the Archconfraternity, and her actual full name is Saint Therese of the Child Jesus of the Holy Face. She was extremely dedicated to the Holy Face. So it became very known initially, but Sister Mary of St. Peter warned that the evil one would do everything in his power to try to stop it. And unfortunately, it died out. It lost reverence. And only now is it being revived. So tell everyone is the second point. The third point is Peter the 3/10. During the Transfiguration, the Apostle Peter was so overwhelmed by everything that our Lord was going on with our Lord and his Transfiguration and Moses and Elijah. And he said, let me make 3/10. Let's make 3/10 here. He wanted to honor this. He wanted to show its incredible importance. And then, of course, God the Father comes in from the heavens and says, this is my beloved Son on whom my favor rests. Listen to him, and kind of overshadows everything that Peter was planning. There was a kind of a similar thing that happened with the Holy Face devotion, in which the Peter of more recent times, Pius IX, was very much taken by this miracle. It was all the talk of Rome. And he wanted to do something to honor it. And what did he say? He said, let's have artists draw. They didn't have photography back then. It was 1849. Let's have artists draw on linen what the Holy Face looks like. And then have that linen touched to the true veil of Veronica, to the true wood of the cross, and to the head of the spear. And so that what happened. And those have been sent, as I noted before, throughout the world. So Peter and the 3 tenths, the original Apostle Peter and then the more recent Peter. And the last one is Christ glowing. During the Transfiguration, he was announcing his divinity. He was showing who he really was to his apostles. His face was dazzling as the sun. However, with the Holy Face miracle, it was softly illuminated. It was dimmed. But we know that even though it has been dimmed, that it is to be revived and is in the process of being revived. And even Father Carney, who wrote the book The Secret of the Holy Face, in this book he indicated, quote, "The Holy Face too will be revived on a grand scale for the triumph of the Blessed Virgin Mary and for her greatest saints in these later times." And we know that with the Holy Face, whether it's an authenticated relic like I have here, or even if someone has a picture of our Lord in the Holy Face, the suffering Lord, that when one prays, one is to have a light like we have here, a light glowing for our Lord in the Holy Face. Because, as it says in John 18, our Lord says, "I am the light of the world. Whoever follows me will never walk in darkness, but will have the light of life." God bless you. Like, subscribe to further this, and thank you so much.